This is the Ponderous Brick Thinker with a castle update, and there's much to discuss. As you can tell from the video, I am not at my apartment. I am dog sitting, and now I hope to be able to continue my castle updates from here, but we'll see. More likely, yes, the dog is real mellow, and we'll see how it goes. So if you hear panting, whining, animal noises, that's why there's a dog that needs petting or feeding. But part of that is I'm going to try and do it what I did with the sketches. Limit myself to 15 minutes of work and then go see what's up with the dog. And because the dog is also very social, so I'm going to need to do some frequent breaks and not leave him completely abandoned. So the plan is working 15 minutes and then go with the dog, and that will help me, just go try to push forward every 15 minutes I have. And ideally, I might have 3 15-minute sessions in a day, 4 times a week. That might get me to 3 hours of work. And part of that will be just trying to find the best route for the castle, and then edit it down to 20 max minutes. That's the plan. But we'll see how it goes. And what else? This is also a planning episode, just to try and find out where I should be going with the castle. At this moment, it can go in so many directions. I have a theme, I have a team, and what to go with that. So part of that is trying to find a way that responds to the team. And that will be the driving force for the look and the feel of the castle. Because with any other team, it will be a different castle. And it will be great to be able to do so many styles, all the possibilities, but really that's going to take forever, and it will be only for this configuration and not really be able to say for certain that I have covered every possibility. What I can say is, for this current team and theme, this is the best I can do. And that's the direction I'm going to go for. So it is going to be 3 towers with walls. I know in the earliest planning of the castle there were minor buildings, but it was just getting too crowded for this particular setup. And the towers will be the buildings, and part of that is trying to identify what I should be doing with the towers in terms of theme and direction, because the castle doesn't need to be. So part of the direction is trying to identify how the castle came to be. In Real World Castle, what we see right now was not done in a single go. It was not done in a single generation. And so over the generations, castles were modified until what we see as complete today. Part of that tells, this is it. I'm going to say for unification purposes that it was all done together. So it is going to be a unified look. I am going to try and incorporate an older architecture as part of the foundation and part of the base, in which this team has built on top of. And so there is going to be some clash. What I still need to figure out is how high or what dominance is the older architecture going to be, and what is the new architecture going to look like. And part of that reason is I might have mentioned in the earliest videos that I can have, there's 9 team members. Does that mean each team member has a tower, and each tower kind of represents that character of that team member? And it will be kind of chaotic, especially this tight configuration, as I estimated the size of the towers. And that's how I came up with the nature theme, trying to unify the team so that it is its own identity rather than a whole lot of different identities kind of put together. And now it is time to kind of figure out what tower Is there going to be a purpose? And I think there should be. There should be some kind of say in terms of this is the function of this tower. It's going to be the same style, but a different purpose. And by style, I mean also kind of using the elements, that one particular element does not represent, no, that doesn't, it kind of also means that each element, Lego piece, might be found in each of the towers but used in different ways. For example, there's going to be a basement for underwater nature over here that's going to use light blue transparent panels. That same kind of material, the light blue transparency, can be used in the other towers so that it's just not right there, even though it's for a very specific purpose. It can be used in different ways for the other towers. And part of that is trying to find a theme of nature that can be put into 3 categories that the team can take part of. That it's not the one tower, it does not exclude or does not appeal to any other of the team members. So it has to be a group of team members that can have a tower that can meet their characteristic needs. And so let me show you this diagram. As a reminder, here are the 9 team members of this team. And after so long, I have yet to give a name to this team until now. So the team name is Garden Party, a play of words on party. I'm not too familiar with the current lingo of the youngins, but it's also doesn't really make sense because Beta has claws, so does Wolverine. Chewbacca, he has hands, they're just like under a lot of fur. So it's really in honor of the dog I'm dog sitting. So there we go. It's a nod to nature, but not to take it too seriously. And now I'm trying to find commonality of traits and characteristics between the team members to make a group. And hopefully that group will kind of influence the design of a tower. And what I could find is that several of the team members are immersed in nature. For example, Storm communes with nature in a way that her powers enable her to control the weather. The Na'vi have a special relationship with their nature environment. Beta is a bit of nature, so he's automatically in nature. Wolverine's senses enable him to understand and, go with nature. And Sarah is practically always there climbing mountains. That's her trait. Chewbacca, I'm going to say he's immersed. The Wookiees have a naturalistic environment. From what I could see from the Star Wars movies is that the society still has some strong natural roots. Rather than building artificial buildings, they live in trees. The other grouping I could find is understanding. Being able to study nature and understand it more. In other words, science, maybe even technology. So Beast from the X-Men has always been scientific minded and be able to examine several aspects of nature. Quidditch, he's not really trying to understand nature as much as trying to control it. And that's my take, because with controlling there's technology, so that's what he's familiar with and that's how he interacts with nature. And Chewbacca is quite capable of using technology. And let's say he uses it also to kind of control or be part of nature. And again, because the Wookiees have a society that does not push out nature, but rather embrace it. And Logan, because I need to include him somewhere, let's say he can use technology. Whether it's for nature, not so much, but again, let's see if the others can teach him how to be with nature. And perhaps for the most important tower, it will be fun. Basically everyone uses nature in a fun way that I can identify. So I can go with that. It's just so Wookiee. Well, for Chewbacca, again, just from the movies, he has more fun in starships. I would say it's hard to say since he's in a rebellion. So it's hard to say what his view on nature is. His particular view. Quidditch, let's just say he's very serious and does not have time for fun. But all the other characters, I'd say, they have their own way of having fun with nature. And since, let's say, let me put these all together, they at least have 2 towers that they can, partake in. And so fun has the most team members, and so I think it should have the most real estate. So it's going to be on the taller of the bases, and also probably the larger tower. The second tower in importance will be immersed. There are more, it's the in-between number of team members. And so that is to say, it will probably be the one with the basement with underwater nature. And literally, because you can be immersed in that environment. So I'm going to go with that. The other one, understanding, has the fewer members. And so that will be kind of the smaller tower and probably the one closest to the front. That way you can give a bit of scale that there's a smaller, medium, and a large tower. They're not all the same. They have their own purpose. And with these 3 different themes of the towers, all relating to nature, they're going to be designed to maximize that theme and trying to use the same elements. So this little setup describes what I am dealing with in terms of scale. They are all different, from minifigs to tall figs to mini figs. I'm not sure what type of fig Logan is, but he's the mini kind. So if all the team members were the same height as Logan, then the scale would probably be right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the minimum height a level should be. But because we have Quaritch and Chewbacca, the height should be taller than that. So it looks like 6 levels of brick will be the minimum for each level. The level can be taller, especially since on most buildings, the first floor, or when you enter, that's the tallest level. And that will be kind of a baseline for me to, as a starting point, each level will be 6 bricks at least. Now, the next thing is I have collected easily to get 2x2 bricks, just to kind of give a hint or a suggestion of how high should a tower be and still look good in this setup. Because I did describe it should be a tall tower, it should be a medium tower, it should be a small tower. But how many levels does it take to fit that category? And so it's not really suggesting what color the tower is going to be. It's more like I'm going to need to see how many levels a tower is and kind of judge, is it too high, is too low, and go from there. Let me start with the first tower, which is going to be the Tower of Understanding. So here is a tower with 4 levels, and I can kind of estimate, give it some shape to it, and say, that actually looks kind of good. And so this being the smaller of the towers, it is going to be suggesting that the other towers are going to be more than 4 levels. And that will be the next step. I made 6 high brick columns so that I can place them and have it recorded more or less my methodology as to determine what is a good height. So this is a higher platform than this one. I did say this tower is going to be higher, but that's also kind of including is the basement part of the tower, which many is no. So I temporarily placed this platform just so that it can represent where the ground floor of the tower is going to be. It is going to be flush with this one. So more or less it's going to be here. It might not be there in the long run, but that's just for me to visualize where is the bottom floor of the tower. Okay, so about right there, not quite even. And here it is where it surpasses, and I would say it does need a little bit more. And now they're technically the same height in terms of how many floors it has. How about this will represent one level more. It does have a significant height than the first tower. Let me see how much more it can go before it becomes too tall. Okay, so one more. Will that make it too tall? I would say so. I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to do the same for this tower there. And ultimately, this is going to be the taller of the one. So I'm going to see if I put that height here, how does that look? So for the tallest tower, it's going to be at least 4. Okay, so let's go. Maybe it's gonna have to be 2 more. No, I just want to make it distinct. So that way I can more or less see. That's respectable height. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6. Huh. How about And also, reminder, it is my intention for the towers to be removable so that when I do move, and I did have to move these, the towers will be removable and be kept safe, and I don't have to balance the whole thing on that base. I'm glad I made this in modules so that I can take it apart. There was some damage, but that was expected, especially like with these parts there. There was some damage along the edges. This was completely broken off. It was just partly because I had these in the same box, and I think the weight of this kind of just smashed into that. So I'm probably just going to have one box for each base, so that way they can be individually protected. How about one more? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 levels for 9 team members. Okay, so the other thing I was thinking of, for here, these squares will be more or less the base of the tower. Here, I'm wondering if this can also be the base of the tower, so it's not a tower isolated to that base. So how about the tower extends to here? Let's just start with 2 levels for each of these supplementary towers. And again, it's not going to be the same level consistently. Sometimes they might overlap. Maybe it's not going to be consistent level throughout the tower. It might be half and half. But this is just to give me an idea. Let me add some more. Let me see if I go like this, and that there's like a gradual increase in height. So the center columns represent the general height of the tower. This one in particular, the corner columns are the widest extent of the tower that's going to be, and it's just going to be like a fuzzy, rough-in of how the tower is going to look. Right now, this one looks a little too small compared to everything else. So I wonder if I need to do that. But also, by having kind of a number of levels, I can try and give some more purpose to each level. So it's just not stacking of levels to make a tower tall, but rather trying to have something interesting at each level that represents the theme of the tower and make it useful, have it a purpose. So that way it's just not literally this, but a little bit more Lego pieces involved. But just, maybe that would be a good direction and have each level have a purpose, but have a connected overall theme, so that it could be an interesting challenge in that respect, in terms of making it a really purposeful design. And then one more. And if you recall, the earlier sketches of the bases were, I'll probably have a screen cap of how it looked back then. It kind of looked like this, just a rough construction, and not anything of what later came. But it did start something like this. This is just something so that I have a goal in mind. I probably won't keep this in place. I'll document it somewhere so that this corner is this many levels tall, this is that tall, and that way I can have a rough estimate of how many levels to aim for in a tower and make it still look good. I think that will work. It's kind of tall. So I'm going to leave it here, and the next one will be more or less roughing in, maybe even a sketch of what the overall design idea is. Oh, but before I go, the last thing I need to show, the overall color of the castle. It's going to be this. I think it's medium azure. Once I place an order for more, I'll know for sure, but this color, I have plenty of it, and I'm thinking it's going to be more of the glue that holds together the other elements, so that I can use other colors in the castle and the other unique shapes that come in the other colors, and this is what's going to hold it together. In addition to trying to sketch the overall style, I also want to do some sketches of the wall, because the last thing I want is just to have a solid of this color, and that's not really interesting. Somehow the wall has to have some design qualities to it to make it look nice, and that will be another challenge. So it might be in the next episode or the next one after that to kind of determine what is the style this castle is going to be. I have the overall idea, the theme, and the purpose, the function, but also now what are the pieces that I have, what are the colors that I have that can serve that purpose. And so that's the next part, where it will help me kind of design the whole thing. It's going to be anticlimactic, because I'm not going to focus on this tower and then have in suspense what the other things are going to be. I think it's going to be kind of back and forth, working on this and that, trying to discover what the style is, finding new ways of using the style, and kind of learn from here and apply it there, and bounce it around, so that way it's more or less consistent, and not just this was the first one done and it's not so great, but over here, after learning all the lessons, this is the fantastic tower, and it's going to be kind of unbalanced in terms of where your attention goes. So that's the next part. This has been the Ponderous Brick Thinker. Thank you for stopping by. If you liked the episode, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see how this project progresses, go ahead and subscribe and click for a notification so you can be alerted when the next update happens. Now that I am dog sitting, maybe it's going to be a little chaotic. We'll see. So far so good. And see you next time.